Hi, I'm Deborah Gray, and this is my son, Lawrence Gager. So we're going to talk about the study that you may have seen the headlines this week, or had a link to an article sent to you by, an older relative about teens, depression and anxiety, the rise in depression and anxiety, um, and the supposed link to smartphones and social media. So there have been a ton of these studies, and what you didn't hear much about was a couple months ago, another one came out and said, no, we're not really finding a link between the rise in depression and anxiety among teens and social media and smartphones. But you don't hear much about that because it's not as much the kind of story that's going to get passed around by parents who and send it to their kids and grandkids and say, see, I told you so. Anyway, so one of the more reasonable headlines was from Minnesota Public Radio. A rise in depression among teens and young adults could be linked to social media use.
Could be. Keyword
right.
Could be. They're leaving it open.
So what we're actually going to do is we're going to look at the study a little and basically pick it apart and look at what the study actually said and what then is a possible bias in the lead author's interpretation of the results. So the title of the study is really exciting, like they usually are. Age, period, and cohort trends in mood disorder indicators and suicide-related outcomes in nationally representative data set 2005 to 2017.
Long name, Jesus.
Yeah, I know. So the way that Minnesota Public Radio, one of the paragraphs that describes it really well, says, a study published Thursday in the Journal of Abnormal Psychology finds the percentage of U.S. teens and young adults reporting mental distress, depression, and suicidal thoughts and actions has risen significantly over the past decade. While these problems also increased among adults 26 and older, the increase was not nearly as large as among younger people. So I'm going to go right to the what I think is a possible bias in the lead author, which is very disturbing because that should not happen in studies. They should be basically facts.
Yeah, that's what my English teacher tells me when I'm trying to find sources for my essays.
Well,
I mean, it's
relying
important.
on facts. Like there's opinion writing, and then there's what should be factual writing, and there should be nothing more factual and fact-based than a study.
Exactly. If you're screwing around with stuff and be like, hey, look at this.
Yeah,
this serves my bias.
Well,
this pushes my agenda.
So speaking of, so the head author is Jean Twenge. A quote from her says, well, actually, I'll say this till a little later because I'm going to attack this also. So she just coincidentally wrote a book called iGen, while today's super connected kids are growing up less rebellious, more tolerant, less happy, and completely unprepared for adulthood, and what that means for the rest of us. And here is a description from Amazon. Born in the mid-1990s up to the mid-2000s, iGen is the first generation to spend their entire adolescence in the age of the smartphone. With social media and texting replacing other activities, iGen spends less time with their friends in person, perhaps contributing to their unprecedented levels of anxiety, depression, and loneliness. So here's a quote from her in the Minnesota Public Radio article. Spending time on social media tends not to be in real time, she says. You're not having a real-time conversation with someone. Usually you're not seeing their face and you can't give them a hug. It's just not as emotionally fulfilling as seeing someone in person. Now, let me address this from a historical perspective, okay? Now, I'm 56. I was a teenager, kid and teenager in the 1970s. Okay, so just like Lawrence and many of you,
hi.
I went to school. I saw my friends at school. I sometimes spent time with them after school, and sometimes spent time with them on the weekend and during vacations.
Weren't you like that? Weren't you a complete loner?
Not a complete
You
loner.
read books all day.
No, that was in elementary school and grammar school.
Same thing.
I am an introvert, much more so than you, and much more so than a lot of people. And yes, I was a bit of a loner, but I'm thinking more of high school. Yes, I had a group of friends that I hung out with, and even middle school, same thing. I had friends. Yes, I did have friends.
Sure.
Harsh, rude. Anyway, so but what we did sometimes when we couldn't see our friends in person was we used something called the phone.
Oh my God! What a revolutionary idea.
Now I not as much as, for instance, my sister, who usually would come home and spend like literally 2 hours on the phone with her friends, I'd be like, you just saw them. But when I was a senior in high school, I had a boyfriend who went to another school in another town, so I was on the phone with him all the time. Now that wasn't face to face, okay. And then in the old days, when I was a kid and a teenager.
Didn't you meet Dad through online dating?
Oh, that's so seriously getting edited.
No, come
We're
on.
not going there.
We're
not going there.
See?
We're not going there. Yes,
being online is good.
Okay.
Online is good.
Yes, it is good. You
don't
would never
edit
have
this.
been born.
Don't edit this.
I see. Okay,
please.
Seriously. Okay, so
this serves our argument.
Yes, and I'm very glad that it was available, or so I never would have known him. So now, but see, I'm an old person. You're making me lose my train of thought.
Please
so
don't.
okay, I won't edit it out. So and the thing was, telephone calls were expensive. So what we did, way up through the 80s, even into the 90s, is when we wanted to talk to someone far away, but we didn't have the money, we wrote something called letters.
Oh my God.
And that wasn't face to face either. That was actually a way that people used to communicate when they couldn't be face to face with someone for the last, I don't know, couple thousand years.
Oh, and then came AOL.
Seriously, you're getting a little off topic. What I'm trying to say is this whole idea that the only way to communicate is face to face is ridiculous. And not only that, it doesn't account for this rise in depression and anxiety over the last 2 decades.
Yeah, exactly. Okay? I'm not going to I'm not going to fly all the way to Australia to talk to my Australian friend because it's better and more emotionally fulfilling.
My best in-person friend, Nancy, lives 3,000 miles away. Okay, I would love it if she lived next door and I could see her every day face to face. She would love it too. But you know what? It's not possible. So, and especially because we're both moms, and we're pretty busy. We text. We don't even necessarily. Sometimes when we have time, we'll talk on the phone in person, but we don't always have time. So a lot of times we stay in touch by texting. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so
as long as you're getting human contact, whether it be over the phone,
it's just not realistic. It's not that all of a sudden in the last couple decades, people started having communication that wasn't face to face. This has been going on hundreds of years.
Yeah, I mean, it was first shouting between rooms. That wasn't technically face to face. Then it was letters. Then it was telegrams. Then it was phone call. Wait, was the telegram invented before the phone call or vice versa?
I believe it was the telegraph before the...
Okay. Telegraph, phones,
I might be wrong.
Texting, goddamn AOL Messenger, Skype.
The point, one of the points I'm trying to make is, I'm sure this researcher is a very nice person. However, she has a book to sell. Okay? So
She's pushing an agenda.
This is one of the most important things I want you to take away from this is when you see these headlines, if it's something that affects you or someone you care about, it's worth taking the time to see who are the people, who's the main author of this study. Okay, who's the person who's being quoted? Who's the person who's appearing on the morning shows? Do they have a book to sell? Do they have an app that they're selling?
Do they have an agenda to push?
Do they have an agenda? Okay, so then when someone says to you, oh, see, we told you those phones and those smart media are bad.
Throw a shoe at them.
Okay, that's the other thing. So the study basically, here's what the study basically said. A lot of numbers, okay? There are a lot of numbers because it's a research study. Now, what they said as far as what the causes could be, there were several possibilities. And this is what they said in the study. Possible causes for the increase in depression and anxiety among teens in the last couple decades. Decline in sleep, more willingness to admit mental illness, or opioid use among adults. Now, I also thought of a couple other possible causes. There was the recession, 2008, 2009, 2010. When, I don't know if you're even in the camera. So kids, people who are teens now, either their parents, someone in their family, or a neighbor, someone they knew lost their job and had a lot of trouble finding one.
6.
Yeah. So you're talking about then financial uncertainty. So they've also grown up with financial uncertainty. The other thing is Columbine happened in 1999 and 9/11 happened, obviously, in, not obviously, 2001. So you guys have grown up with what seems to be
a broken world.
That, but a much less secure world. Okay. So, be skeptical when you see these studies, because sometimes someone doesn't have a book to sell and they just have blinders on. Sometimes the sample size is very small, like 100 or 200 people. Sometimes there are other factors. So they'll look and they'll say, oh, well, this is when they started using smartphones, so this must be the cause. This is when they started using social media, so this must be the cause. There are these other possible causes. And the thing is, the study says, we don't know.
MySpace made people suicidal.
Well, but people, well, okay, I'll talk about that in one sec. But what they're saying, but what the study says is we don't know. Okay. However, when that doesn't make an interesting headline. An interesting headline isn't, study done of rise in depression and anxiety among teens in the last couple decades. We don't know what, several possible causes. That's not as interesting and eye-catching as
social media causes depression and suicide.
Yeah, take those phones away from your kids. They had some kind of like phone down. I can't remember what it said. It was just dumb. But here's the thing about social media. They're talking about bullying. You may not have ever heard of this. There's something called slam books. These started in the 1920s. It would be a notebook that would be passed around among friends and among the school. What you do is you write down nasty things about other people. Okay?
Oh, damn.
So those have been going on for decades. I don't think they're, I think they probably died off sometimes in the 80s was the last time we heard about them.
Yeah, because now we can just post on Instagram about how somebody's a trash person. And call them a racist.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the thing. There are all sorts of things. Well, it's a wider audience now than when it was just blah blah blah. The bottom line is they don't know. Okay, they don't know. It did not draw any conclusions because they can't draw any conclusions at this point. They just offered possible causes.
Yeah, but they want to say this is a cause. This is totally a cause. We're smart people. We don't have an agenda.
Well, be suspicious when you know that a study like this comes out and that you're going to start getting grief from like every single adult you know. Look at the study, okay? Some of it obviously is mind-numbing, but then at the end, for instance, my eyes were starting to glaze over a little when I was looking at the study, and then I saw at the end possible causes. It didn't take, it was the first sentence of each paragraph told what these possible causes were.
Yeah, maybe it's the fact that we have to get up so damn early to go to school.
Actually, that was
6 a.m.
lack of sleep.
God.
Well, here's the other thing. Now, many of these articles, I saw one on NBC and other sites that basically just took what the author said, her quotes, and just ran with it as far as, yes, this is what's causing the rise in depression and anxiety. The reason I like this article in Minnesota Public Radio, and I'm going to link to the study and that article and anything else that's helpful. in the description. But what they said, they talked to other people. Shocker. So here's one thing they said. Other researchers are less convinced of the connection between screen time and mood. It's important to keep in mind that while there has been an increase in negative psychological states, the majority of teens and young people are not depressed. The other thing, this guy that I can't pronounce his name, so I'm going to embarrass myself. But anyway,
let me see.
I'm linking to the article.
Let me see.
Robert
Krosner,
I guess. Anyway, so he adds there could be many other things besides technology contributing to the rise. There really aren't data that show a strong connection.
It is school.
Between these two things, he says, I think this increase in mental health issues is real and it's something we need to be concerned about. But until we know exactly what's causing it, I don't think it's so easy for us to put the blame on any one thing. And they also talked to another guy who was actually very as critical as academics get of each other. He was critical of the emphasis that the lead author put on social media and cell phones.
On social media quite a lot. I post a lot of memes. It does give people access to easier methods of communication, which I will be honest does allow people to bully each other more. I've been told to kill myself more times than I can remember.
And hey, a lot of times it's been in person too.
Exactly. She's right.
It's very depressing.
And there have been plenty of times when I've been told nasty things over the internet. But
you also have met people on the
exactly.
internet.
I met a guy in 5th grade. I'm still friends with him. He's a great guy.
And I also had on my website, my Wingman site, for 10 years I had a message board and chat for people with depression. There were people, first of all, who got married because of meeting on there. But the other thing is that never would have existed. There are people from all over the world. There never would have existed without the internet. And it wasn't face-to-face communication, but it was essential.
Over thousands of miles.
Absolutely essential. People literally. Okay, so people were suicidal.
Did my game just crash? Oh man.
So people who were suicidal could go into that chat room anytime of the day or night, and there would be someone to talk to them. Okay. Now, face-to-face, let's say you're suicidal, face-to-face, how easy is it to find that?
Oh no, Batman Arkham Knight crashed.
Anyway, was that all the points you wanted to make?
No. This world is bad. There's been plenty of war. The government, terrible. That's my hot take. This world has suffered climate change, war, poverty, all that stuff. It's trash. And another thing, something I mentioned earlier, being woken up at 6 a.m. to go to school. I don't have to go to school at 6 a.m. I have to go to, I have to be in the building at 8:20. But I get up at 6 a.m. because you have to get to work. And I'm sleep deprived as all hell. So yeah, that is part of it.
Well, can I point out that you could go to sleep a little earlier?
Shh, we're not talking about that.
I mean, the thing is, see, I'm the glass half full kind of person. So I look at it and I say, yes, there are problems, but anyway, I know that's boring.
You're lame.
I'm an
Yeah,
optimist.
and here's the thing. I hang out with my friends a decent amount. I yesterday went down to a shopping plaza, hung out, got some food, went to a movie, then hung out at my friend's house. And we played board games.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is...
I'm probably going to hang out with someone today.
Is what you need to always...
I hang out with people plenty in person.
Be suspicious of is easy answers.
Exactly.
There aren't easy answers.
Exactly. Nothing's easy.
And
period.
I'm sure this article, and links to it is being passed all around social media. As I said, the other one that said that they didn't find a link between depression and smartphones and social media, that didn't get passed around. I hate to say it, since I'm an old person, but a lot of it, the problem is Facebook, where old people are. I don't really like Facebook, but
it's all right,
most people most people 30 and older do like it. And so those are your parents, your grandparents, your
someone
aunt,
who's 56
your
doesn't
neighbor
like it. I'm
next
proud
door.
of you, Mom.
Yeah,
I'm
your
proud
neighbor
of you.
next door who, tell, all these people who actually, or virtually neighbor next doors on Facebook are sending, passing this stuff around. What you need is the tools.
At least my grandmother hasn't sent it to me.
Well, what you need is when something like this comes out, what you need to do is then look into it and say, well, actually,
develop your own game theories.
So you can say, well, actually, the study did not draw those conclusions. It didn't draw any conclusions, and it said that there were several possible reasons. So that way, you can first of all hopefully impress them with how intelligent you are to have gone.
I'm a smart boy.
Have gone and looked at the study itself, and then also you can shut them up. So I hope this has been helpful. It's been very long-winded. I understand that. So if you're still here at the end, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you're still here, be nice. Come on, give us a like, man.
Please give us a like. And
we're not begging. Mostly.
Well, we want to bring to as many people as possible the channel and videos for teens with anxiety and depression,
and for parents
not for
of teens.
Well,
with
their
depression.
Parents, but there's
Mostly
plenty out
teens.
there for their parents and for adults. We want to bring to as many people as possible, as many kids as possible, information about how to live with depression and anxiety, and how to get more good information about it instead of just the junk information, junk science that is getting passed around in the media.
So talk about our channel to your friends,
please, and share this video, and also please subscribe if you want to see more videos, and please comment because we'd like to hear your thoughts too.
Channel engagement. Let's play the algorithm.
Okay.
I don't know.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.